That was a really nice introduction. It is a real pleasure and an honor to be here. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I've been speaking pretty much constantly for the past 2 years, and honestly, this is one of the moments I've been most looking forward to. I have to say, I think for Nami, Westside, LA to invite me, it shows an open mind. And an open mind to sort of rethink certain things. And you will hear things in the next hour and a half that I think do challenge conventional wisdom. But the hope is that this information, which really coming from science and history, will help us. The title of this talk really was Imagining a Better Future. Yep?
We can't hear you that.
Okay. Is this better? Sorry. Before they were saying, don't get too close. So, anyway, so that's really the goal here, is to present information. We talked about pathways to wellness, and really, I think I'm going to do this morning. We have a conventional understanding of mental disorders, and it's been driving our care. I'm going to present a nuanced vision, I think, of what's possible. And really the thought is, could we imagine a different future that does a better job of helping people get well? Now, one thing about my own background. I really began writing on this subject in 1998, and I did it for a series for the Boston Globe. And it was a series about abuses of patients in psychiatric research settings. And I want to tell you, I had an absolutely conventional understanding of mental disorders at that time. I thought the medications fixed chemical imbalances in the brain. I thought they were absolutely essential across the board. And this was a 4-part series. One part of the series, we looked at studies in which patients diagnosed with schizophrenia had been withdrawn from antipsychotic medications, and we said that was unethical to do. Why would you ever withdraw antipsychotic medications when they're like insulin for diabetes? And that was the series that Sharon was referring to that was actually a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize. So it's 2012, it's 14 years later. I've been on a long intellectual journey, and I just want you to know I started with conventional beliefs. Now, this book, Anatomy of an Epidemic, is a first way of looking at how are we as a society doing in terms of helping those with mental disorders, serious mental disorders. Are we really helping them recover and live robust lives? That's really what the purpose of this book was. And as a first step, what I did do is look at the disability rates. How are they changing in the United States? People going on SSI and SSDI. Now, the modern form of care that we have, that we really embraced, it really goes back to the mid-1980s. It's when we embraced the idea that the drugs fix chemical imbalances in the brain. The drugs are like insulin for diabetes. And it is since then our use of psychiatric drugs in this country has exploded. In 1987, we as a country spent $800 million on psychiatric drugs. In 2007, we spent $40 billion. So that's a 50-fold increase. Now, hopefully, as to how this happened, and with the sense of improvement, this sense of, and by the way, why did I pick 1987? Sorry about this. 1987 is the year that Prozac arrives on the market, okay? This is the first of the SSRI antidepressants. This is the first of the second-generation psychiatric drugs said to be so much better than the first. Okay, so we have this story of progress that drives our understanding of medications and care in this country. We have a first generation of drugs, and in 1987 we get a second generation. The SSRIs replace the old tricyclic antidepressants, and then we get atypical antipsychotics said to be so much better than the old standard antipsychotics like Thorazine and Halvo. So what drives our care in this country is a story of medical progress. We get antipsychotics in 1955. The first one is Thorazine, and you can hear in that word antipsychotic, like an antibiotic. It's like an antidote to an illness. Then we get antidepressants, then we get anti-anxiety agents. Then in 1987 we get better drugs, more safer and effective, okay? That's what drives our care. But let's just look from 1987 forward. What has happened to disability rates in this country? In 1987, we had 1.25 million adults on disability due to mental illness. This is age 18 to 66. By 2007, that number had increased to 4 million. So that's a 3-fold increase. So during this time, we really embraced this paradigm of care. Rather than seeing this marker of a burden of mental distress in our society, rather than see it stabilize or hopefully even go down, it went up. And the question, of course, is why? That's the first thing. The second thing is, more important, is we as a society really can't keep going down this path. It's too expensive, and we really need to have a paradigm of care that doesn't just stabilize people on, say, SSI and then allow them to live on SSI and SSDI. We need a paradigm of care that really helps people get back to work and live more robust lives. That's part of what we need. But you do see that the rising disability numbers raise a question. What's going on? Now, in the past year, I've been asked to travel to a lot of other countries to give talks. Iceland, Ireland, UK, Scandinavian countries, New Zealand, etc. And as I've been giving those talks, one of the things I've done is what is happening to disability rates in those other countries that have really embraced the same paradigm of care. And everywhere you see the same thing. Disability rates are soaring. In Australia, about a fourfold increase in disability rates over the past 20 years. New Zealand, same thing, fourfold increase. In Denmark, the number of people on disability has doubled in the past 10 years.